Jesus gave us clues about what would precede the onset of the end times. For example, he said, "Now learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know that the summer is near. Even so, when you see all these things, you know that it is near, right at the door. Truly I tell you, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened." A prominent prophecy expert attempted to predict when the end times would begin. Hal Lindsey, in his best-selling book, The 1980s Countdown to Armageddon, badly misinterpreted this scripture. Since a fig tree is a symbol for Israel, Hal viewed the reestablishment of Israel in 1948 as the event marking the start of the final generation. He calculated that a generation was about 40 years, so the estimated date for the onset of the end times was 1988. But here's an interesting point. If Israel being reestablished as a nation was the triggering event, the generation born that year will in fact be passing away in the not too distant future. The generation born in 1948 will turn 90 years old by the year 2038. But a more reliable method of tracking the onset of the end times is to study the unification of Europe, which will take the form of a contemporary Roman Empire with the Antichrist in charge. Here's a story about how a present-day Roman Empire is coming together in plain sight. We need to start with some history. Many believe that the Roman Empire ended with the fall of Rome in 476 AD, but that is not true. For example, the Holy Roman Empire began on Christmas Day in the year 800, when Pope Leo III crowned Charlemagne Emperor of the Romans. The Holy Roman Empire ended with Napoleon in 1806. It lasted for over 1,000 years. The Holy Roman Empire was ruled by men holding the titles of Emperor of the Romans, the King of Germany, and the German Roman Emperor. So this Roman Empire placed at its head a German king. In fact, the full title for this Roman Empire was the Holy Roman Empire of the German Nation. During the end times, the Roman Empire will be under the authority of the Antichrist, and like the Holy Roman Empire, Germany will be its dominant leading nation. Give me a moment and I will provide evidence. A contemporary Roman Empire began to take shape on March 25, 1957, when the Treaty of Rome established the European Economic Community, the forerunner of the European Union. The signing ceremony for this Treaty of Rome was at Rome's City Hall. National leaders later reassembled at Rome City Hall to sign the Constitution for the European Union. There wasn't any reason for these documents to be signed in Rome other than to fulfill Bible prophecy. Now, on the map, Germany looks like any other nation located in the heart of Europe, yet Germany proved to be very significant in World War I. But that war did not go well for Germany. Now having been the head of the Holy Roman Empire, Germany instinctively looked to Rome for help the next time it went to war. The alliance between Germany and Rome during World War II was a continuation of their alliance during the Holy Roman Empire, Hitler of Germany and Mussolini of Rome. Germany and Italy together fell far short of world domination. And I saw a beast coming out of the sea. It had 10 horns and 7 heads. This failure in World War II was predictable because Germany was only one of the 7 nations that are to become heads on the future beast out of the sea. 10 more horn nations within Europe are also needed. Let's take a look at how Europe has unified since World War II. This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. That number is 666. This 666 mark of the beast has received many interpretations. my belief is that this beast will display its 666 nature several different ways. One aspect that has already occurred is the manner in which European unity is forming this beast, with the joining together of 3 separate groups of 6 nations each. This is the initial 6, the 6 nations that signed the Treaty of Rome in 1957. They were known as the Europe of 6. The head nation of this developing beast is Germany, as it was the head of the Holy Roman Empire. The body of the beast is the sole remnant nation of the Roman Empire, which is Italy. Now this developing beast had picked up 4 countries who had surrendered their self-governance, first to the European Community and then to the European Union. These 4 nations are the original horn nations on the beast. This analysis is validated by Revelation. To summarize the main points of these verses, the 10 horns are 10 kings who will give their power and authority to the beast. Horn nations surrender their sovereignty, give up their authority to self-govern to the centralized European government. But this beast has 10 horns, so 6 more horn nations are needed. So we take the original Europe of 6 nations and add another 6 nations that joined the European Community before it became the 12-membered European Union. Note that the flag of the European Union has 12 stars. At that point, there were a total of 10 national leaders who had surrendered their self-rule. But the beast still only had 1 head. It needed 6 more nations to become a 7-headed beast. In 2004, 6 nations combined with the then 12-membered European Union to form the 18-membered European Economic Area. These 6 nations were members of the European Free Trade Association. These nations gained access to the European Common Market without surrendering their sovereignty. Because these nations retained self-rule, they joined Germany as being heads on the beast. With the formation of the European Economic Area, the beast now has 10 horns and 7 heads. By the way, it has not been surprising that additional nations have been added to this beast, and it was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. But soon the 7 heads of the beast begin to fall to make way for a singular final head over this Roman Empire, which will be the Antichrist. The 7 heads are 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 is, and the other has not yet come. But when he does come, he must remain for only a little while. Just as 6 plus 6 plus 6 is a riddle, here comes another riddle. At some point in time, 5 of the 7 heads will have fallen. Of the 2 remaining heads, 1 has its final ruler in place. Concerning the other head, its final ruler is still yet to come. But when that final ruler comes, he will remain in place for only a little while. In other words, once 5 heads are fallen, the 2 remaining heads falling is inevitable. 5 fallen heads means that the world is on the final stretch towards the end. These head nations fall by surrendering their national sovereignty to the European Union, and then ultimately to the Antichrist. At this point, partway through the year 2021, 3 head nations have already fallen. Austria, Finland, and Sweden became European Union members in 1995. The next 2 head nations to fall will be from this short list: Iceland, Norway, or Liechtenstein, as 2 of these 3 nations at that point join the European Union. The beast who once was and now is not is an 8th king. That the beast once was and now is not refers to the enlarging and waning of the Roman Empire over time. But once all 7 heads fall, then comes the Antichrist, the 8th king, and he becomes the only head over the beast. That only 1 active head remains on the beast can also be seen from the writings of Daniel. Daniel saw the final makeup of this beast, and while giving a fairly detailed description, noted that it had 10 horns. It was different from all the former beasts, and it had 10 horns. Had this final form of this beast kept 7 active heads, then Daniel would have mentioned it. Once the Antichrist arrives on the scene, all 7 heads will have fallen. In the end, there will be only one authoritative head on this beast, the Antichrist. Daniel also tells us that when seizing power, the Antichrist will overthrow 3 nations, 3 horned nations. The Antichrist is an 11th horn appearing on the beast. While I was thinking about the horns, there before me was another horn, a little one, which came up among them, and 3 of the first horns were uprooted before it. This late arriving little horn is the Antichrist. He uproots, overthrows 3 nations while taking control. This may be needed because some nations may not submit voluntarily, like the United Kingdom with Brexit. Before closing, here is another issue that merits watching. The Antichrist will one day establish a treaty, a covenant with Israel, guaranteeing her safety. One possibility is that Israel could become a member of the European Union, which would make the armies of Europe available for her defense. Such a change would make Israel secure, perhaps secure enough to accept a fully autonomous Palestinian state. In return, Israel could be allowed to rebuild its temple on the Temple Mount. Most Israeli citizens view the option of joining the European Union favorably. While no concrete actions have been taken at this point, such action would do much to set the world stage for the end times. One more point to validate the model of the beast out of the sea presented here. As a result of its defeat in World War II, Germany was split in half, with the Federal Republic of Germany, also known as West Germany, and the German Democratic Republic, known as East Germany, being carved out by the victors. A severe head wound, like being severed in half, is usually fatal. In Revelation it says, one of the heads of the beast seemed to have had a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. This verse says that one of the heads of the beast, that is, one of the 7 heads, appears to be fatally wounded. This wound cannot refer to the Antichrist. Like everyone else, the Antichrist will have only one head. The Soviet Union controlled East Germany for decades, made it a member of the Soviet bloc. It seemed that this wounded head had killed off the beast until Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev ordered the Berlin Wall to be taken down in 1991, and Germany was reunified. It seemed a miracle. Germany, the primary head of the beast, had been healed. If the end times started tomorrow, would you be ready? Start this series with Signs in the Sky. Agree or disagree, I value your comments, and please click subscribe and like this video. Thank you for listening.